Hello, my name is Iqbal, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my research project on bot behavior and political discourse, analyzing Twitter activity during Brazil's elections. A bit of background, the 2018 Brazilian presidential election marked a turning point in the country's political communication. Twitter and WhatsApp played a central role in candidate visibility amidst a backdrop of political scandal and public mistrust. The far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro effectively leveraged these platforms to engage directly with a highly polarized audience, his campaign heavily relying on online messaging. Research has shown that Bolsonaro's social media presence was a decisive factor in his electoral success and played a significant role in reinforcing polarization, often by exploiting algorithmic amplification. So this research specifically looks at the growing influence of automated accounts or bots in shaping political discourse. This research investigates how bots behave during election cycles and how their activities differ from those of human users. The study focuses on the 2018 Brazilian presidential election and aims to provide an empirical and conceptual foundation for understanding how bots contribute to shaping political narratives. Using a comprehensive dataset of 437 million tweets from 13 million accounts annotated with bot scores, this study conducts three primary investigations. First one, which Twitter bot behaviors are most prevalent during elections and how do they differ from human activity? The second research question is how does the sentiment of political discourse differ between bot-generated and human-generated tweets? And the third one is what are the differences in topic themes between bot-generated and human-generated tweets during election controversies. To analyze which bot behaviors were most prevalent during the elections, tweets were divided into four different types. The types being original tweets, retweets, replies, and quotes. One of the biggest differences we can see here between bots and humans is that bot activity was mainly dominated by retweets and replies, which account for almost 45 to 55% of all bot-generated tweets, while original content remained very low. We can also see that the reply rate spiked during the election period and remains quite high after the 2018 elections. This use of replies and retweets instead of original content might be to increase visibility of their tweets, to disrupt conversations, engage in discussions, and potentially seed messages. The second part of the research was focused on sentiment analysis, more specifically answering the research question, how does the sentiment of political discourse differ between bot-generated and human-generated tweets? To explore this, I used Sentilex, which is a Portuguese sentiment dictionary. Sentiment score for each tweet was calculated using the polarity values for words in the tweet. This gave a value within the range -1 to +1. Then a daily average sentiment was calculated for bot and human tweets, and 14-day moving average was plotted with the daily averages in the background. The moving averages for bots and humans look almost identical with a slight shift, however, a difference can be seen when we look at the daily sentiment scores. We can see that human tweets display greater emotional variability. This suggests that bots may struggle to authentically mimic the emotional complexity and variability found in human conversation, likely due to their algorithmic scripting or limited capabilities. Since the election consisted of 2 rounds, I also explored the difference in sentiment for those election days. In this heat map, we have the different election days and the sentiment score for different bot score ranges. As we can see in the first round, the sentiment average is significantly more negative as the bot score increases. However, for the first round, the sentiment is positive all across the board for both humans and bots. This shift may indicate a tactical change in bot engagement from early stage disruption and negativity to late stage content amplification or agenda alignment. It also reflects how bot strategies may evolve alongside public discourse, potentially aiming to reinforce dominant narratives as election outcomes crystallize. This study also measured the average number of replies and quotes received by tweets with either positive or negative sentiment. These two metrics were selected specifically because they reflect interactive responses, Replies often signify direct user engagement in discussion, while quotes frequently indicate commentary or reinterpretation. As shown in the figure at the bottom right corner, tweets with positive sentiment elicited a higher average conversational response, with around 16 combined replies and quotes compared to approximately 14.5 for tweets with negative sentiment. This finding suggests that during the election period, positively framed tweets may have been more likely to stimulate public commentary or follow-up discussion than negatively framed ones. Lastly, topic modeling was used to investigate topic differences between bot and human-generated tweets. For this part, I used LDA, an unsupervised machine learning algorithm that discovers themes and topics within a collection of documents. After identifying these different topics and extracting the terms belonging to each topic, I used generative AI to label and name these topics with the context of 2018 Brazilian elections. At first glance, the intertopic distance maps for bots and humans appear relatively similar. Both models exhibit a mix of closely clustered and moderately dispersed topics. Contrary to initial expectations, topic overlap and clustering are not uniquely indicative of bot activity. However, the key difference lies not in structural separability, but in topical content. Analysis of the bot-generated topics presented in the first table reveals a pronounced focus on Jair Bolsonaro, with his name and related terms appearing consistently across multiple themes. This repetition suggests a strategy of amplification designed to elevate Bolsonaro's visibility across both Portuguese and multilingual tweet streams, reinforcing his image as a victorious figure. Human-generated topics reflect engagement with a wider set of political and social issues, which is represented in the second table. These include socioeconomic concerns, ethics, and personal voting decisions. Such themes suggest that human users were not only focused on candidate promotion or critique, but were also actively deliberating on democratic principles, policy issues, and individual voting rationales. To better understand how political discourse evolved over the course of the elections, separate LDA models were trained on tweets from the first and second round of the election period. Overall, the first round's discourse was very diverse, mirroring the complexity of a multi-candidate election and indicating that users were still forming opinions. But by contrast, the LDA model trained on the second round tweets showed a marked shift in tone and structure. With the field narrowed to a runoff between Jair Bolsonaro and Fernanda Haddad, topics became more focused, polarized, and emotionally intense. The key findings of this research are that bots acted primarily as amplifiers during the elections, relying heavily on retweets and replies. Bot sentiment remained narrow and stable, similar to humans, but human sentiment fluctuated more, showing richer emotional responses to political events. Bots also focused on a narrow set of topics. However, humans engaged in broader, more diverse political discourse. The implications of this research is that bots may disrupt conversations by embedding repetitive content and mimicking engagement, but they lack emotional complexity, whereas human discourse drives political nuance. The main challenges of this research is that classifying bots is becoming increasingly difficult. Bots are getting better at mimicking organic speech, therefore the line between bot-generated and human-generated content is becoming blurred. This research also highlights the growing need for digital literacy, media awareness, and critical thinking in online political spaces. Thank you for listening.